Welcome everyone to your Articulation Bootcamp. My name's Chris Hand. I'm the Programme Leader for the BSc Applied Psychology, and my role is to look after how the programme is delivered and how the programme is enhanced based on things like feedback from you as students, feedback from staff both within psychology and elsewhere within the university, and our external partners including the British Psychological Society. Over the next few years, we are going to be working alongside each other to help one another out. And you're going to meet me on a number of modules throughout the time that you're with us on the BSc Applied Psychology. And you're going to hear from me in a lot of different ways throughout the academic year. So I'm going to be speaking to you at the live introductory session and the welcome at the Articulation Bootcamp, and then throughout the year at various key points we'll be in touch with one another. It's worth reminding ourselves what we mean when we talk about psychology, and the definition that's provided here comes from our British Psychological Society. The BSc Applied Psychology at GCU is accredited by the British Psychological Society, which is in many ways a kind of gold standard for undergraduate teaching. And there's a few things I want to point out in this definition. So it's talking about the scientific study of the mind, and of course science is absolutely crucial to underpinning everything that we do. But the main thing here is that psychology is about the relationship between the mind and behaviour and communication and memory and thought and emotion. So we're looking beyond the parameters of the mind itself and looking at ways in which we can see psychology in everyday life and see psychology around us. And that's kind of where the applied part of the degree title comes from. It's taking this scientific study but really using it to understand the world around us in terms of how we behave, how we feel about ourselves and others, all the kind of things that we all observe in the world around us. We're trying to take that sort of scientific approach to understanding it, and we've got some really excellent examples in our modules that you'll come to learn about over your time with us. So as I mentioned before, what is applied psychology? It is exactly that. It is taking the study of psychology and applying it to the real world, or indeed the virtual world. So it's professional. It's got a focus on to putting the results of research into action, developing interventions, building a fairer, more socially just world around us. And that can be through education, or it can be through working with specific clients, either in a health or a judicial system. It could be working in retail, hospitality, management, all these broad spheres of everyday life, the family, relationships. It's absolutely fascinating. So we're very, very proud that our programme has this applied focus, and we think it really, really helps being able to take these really cool, accessible, everyday examples of where we see psychology in action. Again, it's important to think, what type of things do psychologists do? It's probably a question you're going to get asked a lot during your time studying psychology. What do those people and what do you actually do? So there's the kind of stereotypical things like about working with clients that maybe have depression or have undergone stress or trauma. But we also, as psychologists, particularly applied psychologists, look in the family context about the impact of divorce on children. We help as part of multidisciplinary teams to help patients recover from head trauma or brain injury. And that could be things like helping a stroke patient or an Alzheimer's dementia patient be able to communicate effectively. We work in the education sector to make sure that school pupils, college students, university students are being taught in the most effective way, including the most effective use of digital learning, which is going to be a big deal for the foreseeable future. And indeed helping educational psychologists to understand why kids are maybe struggling a wee bit at school. Some further examples of the types of things that you learn about and that hopefully you're maybe going to consider going on to do in your careers are things like working in the world of work to make sure people are happy at their jobs, being able to perform to the best of their abilities, and that could range from traditional workplaces through to things like sport and exercise. We look at human factors research. So, for instance, in fatal accident inquiries, psychologists often have a role to play in understanding why things have went wrong and how we can perhaps ensure that they don't in future. Psychologists frequently work in the judicial system alongside police services, courts, prisons services to help them function more fairly and effectively. We indeed support vulnerable witnesses, and we support the police service in how to work most appropriately with vulnerable witnesses. That could be kids, it could be people who are fearful of giving testimony for whatever reason, and that's obviously a very, very important role in our society. As I mentioned previously, sport and exercise psychology is a big, big thing. So psychologists will use research and will use practice to help athletes and sports people perform better. And health psychology is very, very important. Psychologists work alongside public health officials, NHS Scotland, other health services and bodies. For instance, tackling global health challenges such as obesity and indeed COVID-19. People will sometimes think of psychologists in the sort of dimensions of being a practitioner. So what is outlined here is the kind of overview of the main areas where people can become what are called practitioner psychologists or charter psychologists. And it's important to stress that not everyone chooses to go down that path. But for those of you who are maybe thinking about a career as an out-and-out psychologist, the main domains that are currently recognised by the British Psychological Society are in sport and exercise, clinical psychology, counselling psychology, educational, forensic, health, occupational. And if you're interested in any of these domains, it's worth having conversations with people like your personal tutors and specific module leaders as you work your way through the programme to find out more about sort of relevant societies, relevant events, relevant publications, and ways in which you can sort of increase your chances of success in one of these domains. But as I said, the psychology degree is a wonderful thing because it opens lots and lots of doors. Not everyone chooses to, and not everyone has to follow one of these specific chartership or practitioner pathways. We keep in touch with our students after they graduate. We're all part of one big GCU psychology community, and these are just some examples from destinations that some of our recent graduates have gone on to. Many go into academic research either through further study or working in colleges and universities. Ultimately, we need more psychology lectures in the future. Many students go on to a career in academic psychology. As I've mentioned before, through the police service, working in social work, mental health nursing, these are quite popular destinations for psychology graduates to go on to work in therapy and counselling. Sometimes this does require further qualification and further training, but again, people like your personal tutor and the careers service at GCU, they're in a great position to kind of support you in making those decisions. A number of our graduates will go on to do things like work in marketing, or they'll go and work in the private sector in research. They'll go on and work in finance, in hospitality, and travel and tourism. Really, really diverse and fascinating journeys that people go on. And again, we're here to kind of help guide you in making your decisions about where you want to end up. What I'd like to go on and do now is talk about the levels of study at GCU, the modules that are associated with the level of study, and a little bit about the assessment formats before moving on to talk more generally about assessments at GCU before finishing with some pointers about where to go, and how to become part of the GCU social network community. In terms of our staff, we're a team of about approximately 30 academic and support staff. That includes people who work part-time, people who work full-time. We have practicing sport and exercise psychologists, health psychologists, counselling, forensic, occupational psychologists, cognitive psychologists, cyber psychologists, social psychologists. We're a really, really diverse team, and I think that's one of our strengths. That, first of all, not everyone in the department is a full-time academic only psychologist. Many of our team members are also working in parallel as practitioners, so I think that gives real strength to our claim to be in an applied psychology department, and I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of other places. So you're not just learning from people that have only got a good grounding in the sort of theoretical textbook side of things, but you're also working with people that are doing this work in the field, and again, that's absolutely invaluable in terms of giving you real practical experience of what it's like to learn psychology, and what it's like to be a psychologist. We have a suite of degree courses, so the most relevant to you at the moment is your BSc Applied Psychology degree, and that's one of the suite of programs that we offer. Our programs at undergraduate and graduate levels are designed to kind of dovetail together. So for those of you that were maybe thinking about further study in psychology, in-house we offer things like a BPS accredited MSc in forensic psychology, and we also offer taught doctorates which are recognised by the Health and Care Professionals Council and the British Psychology Society in sport and exercise, health and counselling. So for those of you that are maybe thinking about practitioner careers or charterships in any of those domains, speak to members of our team to get a feel for what those courses would involve, and you can start having those conversations really, really early in your academic journey. You don't have to wait until you're in fourth year to start finding out more about your destinations.